Woke ideology hasn't just crept into schools and universities, but completely infiltrated them. Classrooms that were once meant for critical thinking have turned into echo chambers of outrage and identity politics. But when these woke students step out of their bubble and face someone armed with logic and facts, it doesn't end well. Here are 8 times when disrespectful woke students got owned instantly. Kicking things off the time Autumn Higashi shuts down a pro-choice wokie. Watch closely.
Do you believe women?
Do I believe women? Yes, I do believe women.
So why is it then that your side, the pro-choice movement, the abortion industry, completely neglects the voices of those who speak up against abortion because they felt betrayed and hurt by abortion? The women who stand at the Supreme Court with signs that say, "I regret my abortion." Why don't you validate their voices and their experiences?
Actually, I do validate the voices of the women who have had abortions and who say that they have not experienced any mental health effects.
So you acknowledge that abortion hurts women?
But that's a very small...
Do you?
Yes, there's a very...
Thank
But
you.
here's
because abortion does hurt
There's
women
a
and it's
very-
bad for their mental and physical health. You just agreed.
Okay, let me read you a source that I found from the American Psychological Association that said that there's no mental health effects on women.
So you're saying every woman that steps forward and said, "I was negatively affected by abortion," you're saying she's lying?
The comments section did a better job dismantling her argument than any debate ever could. Person after person shared how abortion wrecked their mental and emotional health. She kept doubling down on the delusion, but Autumn came in with facts and common sense and shut her down for good.
But this research also shows that women being denied abortion affects them more.
What was the reason? Why does that affect their mental health?
Because it affected their entire life.
And why is that? Because the abortion industry left them in the dust to make them believe that they aren't able to accomplish their hopes and dreams.
Yes, because
when women are denied abortions and then left in the dust by the abortion industry, I can imagine it being difficult, because here's what the abortion industry offers: abortion or you're on your own. That's probably why they struggled, is because here's the thing: abortion is the only thing that Planned Parenthood cares about. They don't care if abortion is their only option. They don't care if women feel like abortion is their only option. They want them there. Because if women don't feel like that, they won't be walking through the doors of Planned Parenthood to get an abortion. They thrive off of women feeling vulnerable and alone, because that is when they make money. So I guarantee you the reason why women struggle with mental health issues when they were denied abortions is because our country has framed pregnancy as such a negative thing that it's going to ruin your life. Well, what if we walked alongside those women? What if we supported them? What if we made sure that they were connected with life-saving resources, with financial aid, with childcare, with diapers, with formula? What would happen then? If we lived in a country where we actually supported women who are pregnant and not put them into a corner to believe that they have to choose an abortion or the rest of their life goes out the window.
Being open-minded is great until your brain falls out. Don't believe me? Just wait till you see this next girl try to make a point.
Do you identify as black? No, it's a serious question, because you might not identify. Can you please put the mic? Thank you. Okay.
When I walked into the room,
I am not done with my question.
young lady.
I'm just asking you to listen to me while
I'm about to answer the first question.
But I didn't finish my question.
Okay. Yeah, I'm black.
Less than 9% of the people in this room are black, and we're all not here for you. Do you think there are racial inequalities in America? And how do you feel about Trump increasing both economic inequality and discrimination for people of color and LGBTQ people? What about violence against marginalized people in the United States? Can you talk about that?
Well, the subject was about, national security and foreign policy. But I will tell you that I think in the minority community, in the black community, I think they're pretty happy that unemployment isn't at an all-time low in the United States of America for Hispanic and black communities, and that's the truth. As a matter of fact, overall unemployment is an all-time low. So if you want to break the pay gap or racial inequality gap, the most important thing is, my parents taught me, who were black, born and raised down south, was about equality of opportunity and not equality of outcomes. I would challenge you to read the book by a black man by the name of Booker T. Washington called Up From Slavery, okay?
That's funny, because W.E.B. Du Bois is much better at describing the racial inequalities in America that you are denying that happen now. And to say that, we are better and unemployment is down is dismissing the fact that a lot of LGBTQ people are in trouble right now because of your administration. understand a lot of black
I'm not in
people.
the administration. I'm just a guy.
I mean,
here.
you are supporting the administration, though, aren't you?
I'm not speaking for the administration.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
unless
Sorry,
you
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
you
I'm
did
just a
say lot
private
of
citizen.
propaganda.
I'm just Joe Sixpack.
She wasn't looking for answers, just a microphone. Angry, aggressive, and wildly immature, all she really wanted was to hear herself talk. Similar to this next girl, a dangerous cocktail of arrogance and ignorance, with just enough confidence to make it painful to watch.
You keep defining abortion as the of babies, which biological fact is you would say most abortions are done before they are actually babies. It's still just a fetus. So my
Do
question...
you know what the word fetus means?
It's just a cluster, a
That's
zygote
not what
developing
fetus means.
into a baby eventually.
The word fetus, it's a Latin word, and it just means offspring. That's all it means. It just means the next
Does that mean
generation of a
baby?
being. So, but that's what a baby is also. I mean, that's what you would call your adult child someday once he's grown, hopefully, if he hasn't been
Can I
murdered.
ask my question?
Well, I'm just like to clarify this point. You would call your adult child your offspring too, but all of these terms that you might use, fetus, embryo, the one they love is zygote, which sounds like a Pokemon, but they use all these different terms, but it's all referring to the same being, and you were that being once. You, the person who's standing here right now.
Do any of us have a memory of being that being?
No, I mean, I don't have a memory of last Thursday, frankly. It's been a very busy week, but the lack of a memory doesn't mean that it's all right to me.
Well, anyways, my question is, you stress babies a lot, but when it comes to babies, kids, and everything in everyday shootings that keep happening, you say nothing. So I ask, why is it okay to murder babies when it's regulating women but not regulating guns?
No, I say quite a lot about that, actually. I think the crime is a terrible problem, and I think it's just awful that liberals have funded and intentionally installed liberal DAs who won't prosecute violent criminals. This has led to an increase in violent crime, and it's awful. I totally oppose that. But it's not me, and it's not my side that's funding that sort of thing. Now, you say, why wouldn't I want to regulate guns? Guns are very regulated in the United States as it is, and I've yet to hear one gun control proposal that would stop any of these shooting incidents that people talk about. People focus on the sensationalized ones from the news, a school shooting or a movie theater shooting. No proposed gun control legislation of the last 30 years would have stopped any of those. And the majority of the shootings are gang-related, and they're handgun shootings. And so I'm all for cracking down on those gangs and throwing them all in the can, but it's usually the liberals telling me that we have to abolish the police and go soft on crime, and they were just failed by society, and so we can't put them in prison, and we have to abolish the prisons too. That's not me. I'm all for it. You want to get me a bill, you want to elect me to office and get a bill in front of me that will crack down on gang crime and these gangsters using handguns to kill kids, let's do it. I'd sign that in 2 seconds. But it's not up to me, unfortunately. It's up to the side that I suspect you would consider yourself to be on.
The smug look says it all. She's not here for facts. No matter what you throw at her, she's sticking to her script and riding that delusion all the way through. Next up, we've got a student who crafted an entire fictional scenario in his head just so he could be offended by it and demand an apology.
I just want you to answer this one question. Do you understand that as a white man, you do not have to apologize for being white? You just have to acknowledge the racism that happens around you. That is all.
What racism happens around me?
Let's say that a racist police officer shoots me, right, and kills me, right? For you to be a white man and you see that and don't say anything about it, I believe that my community would be upset about that. Now, all you have to do as a white man, you don't have to get on the internet or on Twitter and say, I'm sorry for being white, but you should at least acknowledge the racism that happens around you.
Okay, well, yeah, if an individual act of racism happens...
That is just taking accountability for what happens around you.
Hold on a second. First of all, I don't have to be accountability for a whole race, do I? Why do I have to be accountable for the white race?
For yourself.
Right, so if I'm racist, I'll take responsibility for that.
You probably are not racist, but...
Well, thank you. So then why do I have to comment on somebody else's racism?
But what you should do is take accountability for the racism around you. Not pretend that it doesn't happen around you. Like, again, the example that I gave you, that if I was shot by a police officer and you found out that person was racist, right? Now,
But why would you say take responsibility? How can I take responsibility for somebody else's actions?
What you should do is just take accountability and say, hey, yes, that was racist, instead of saying, no, that officer wasn't racist.
Well, hold on. You got to show me an instance and an example, but we're talking about such a micro problem that doesn't exist. Do you know that a black person is 18.5 times more likely to shoot and kill a police officer than a police officer is to go and shoot an unarmed black man?
But is that the question that I asked you?
No, you asked a hypothetical about if I'm going to take accountability for a racist police officer. But do you understand, if I inverted it on you, would you take accountability for all the blacks killing police in America?
Or each other?
No, would you? Why don't you take accountability for all the blacks killing police in New York?
I wouldn't take accountability for it, but what I would say is, yes, there are a lot of black people in my community who do dumb things to other black people and to other white people. What I would not do is just pretend that it doesn't happen, so that, like I said, you as a white man has to do the same thing.
I acknowledge it happens. I also acknowledge it's rarer than lightning striking you when you're outside.
That's it.
But let me ask you, who is Tony Timpa?
That's all I wanted you to do. Thank you.
I acknowledge it's rare, and I'm not gonna have to take responsibility for an entire race.
Honestly, the only person who should be held accountable in that room is the student for being a straight up racist fool. Anyway, let's move on to the next clip.
I just wanna read you this poster that I have, because I hear a lot of pro-lifers say that life begins at conception. So my poster reads, life begins when you understand living women matter more than potential babies.
What is it?
What do you mean?
If it's a potential baby, what is inside of a woman?
It's a fetus.
Is it living?
No.
How can it grow if it's not living?
Actually, that's like saying if an acorn is a tree.
When does the fetus become living?
That's actually a good question, but that line...
Yeah, of course, because you don't know it, because it's living. It's living.
How about you let her speak?
You're fundamentally denying science to validate your opinion.
You actively deny science, ma'am.
How am I denying? What science did I deny, Darby?
Okay, so let's look at some posters over here.
It's hilarious how her argument goes from let's read my sign to now let's read their sign the second she's hit with a simple question that her room temperature IQ wasn't ready for. But it doesn't stop there. She keeps getting schooled as Kristen Hawkins drops truth bomb after truth bomb, leaving her totally stumbling for words.
You're going to tell me what science, you just made an accusation that I denied science. What science did I deny?
That it's a child inside of you. It is a clump of cells when
I'm a clump of cells. What makes me different?
That you were born? You were born.
So you don't, what you're arguing is that anything that is not born is not valuable of life.
I did not say that.
It's subjective. So when does a child or fetus or clump of cells, whatever you want to call it, when does this clump of cells or fetus become living?
When it can sustain its own life.
But when is the sustainability? No, when is sustainability?
21.
About like 30 weeks to born, like 24, 30.
Because how do you sustain life? Like my newborns aren't sustainable. You can't just have a newborn and they just live on their own, right?
Right.
They're not sustainable. They need help and assistance to survive. So is a newborn not worthy of life? Is a newborn not worthy of life?
I do have one thing to say to you. How is it that when my mom was in college 30 years ago, she was protesting the exact same thing that me and these wonderful other women and men on this side have been protesting? How is it? Why? Why are we still protesting? Why are we still having to talk about this issue? It is a basic human right to have an abortion, to have a choice.
The reason we're still having the question is because some people don't want to accept the natural consequences of heterosexual sex and be inconvenienced by another human life, or want to selfishly choose to end human life in order to have their whims met.
Mrs. Hawkins decided to shut her down with common sense, something that's definitely not so common in woke ideologies. But just imagine if she dropped the line, "They're still having this argument today because your mom didn't abort you." Now that would have been a mic drop. But that's nothing compared to the time Charlie Kirk completely obliterated a pro-abortion vegan activist in public. His argument was so ridiculous that even the pro-choicers would probably disown him from their own movement out of sheer embarrassment. Listen closely.
Hello, Charlie. Hello. My name's Adam. So I want to ask you, what do you think about veganism? Vegetarianism.
I am not a fan of veganism, but you have a right to be vegan, obviously.
So let me clarify. Yeah. You on abortion, you support pretty much banning abortion in most situations.
Yes, but humans are not rabbits.
Yes. So
and humans are not deer, and humans are not cows.
Okay. So I want to ask you, do you think it's a little bit hypocritical that you oppose abortion, but you also oppose veganism? Most animals, most adult, like cows, pigs, chickens, they're more intelligent than fetuses and little children, small infants.
I can't believe I have to answer this. Can I answer?
Yeah. So how come you're saying that?
Can I answer?
Okay. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. If you leave a cow for 5 years, will the cow ever be able to talk?
No.
If you leave a fetus for 5 years, will the fetus be able to talk?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure,
so then which one has reason and a soul and can make sense of the natural world, aka an elevated being worthy of protection?
But that's
a cow or a human being?
That's not a good argument. That's like saying mute humans that are born that are without the ability to speak can't have rights.
It's not just about speaking, it's about reason. It's about having a soul. It's about being not an animal. What is a human being to you?
A human being is someone who has personality, and someone who can speak, and if you mean like biologically, like someone of...
No, just give me a definition of, you have a dog and a human being. How do you know which is which?
A human being can walk and talk and
well,
yeah.
A dog can walk.
Yeah, but I can't walk and talk, sure.
Here's the difference. A human being can tell you the difference between right and wrong. An animal can only tell you the difference between pleasure and pain.
Yeah, but animals still suffer like human fetuses do.
But again, the moral worth of a human being is objectively different because we are able to make moral contentions, not just contentions based on how we feel. Animals can only feel, they cannot reason.
Yeah, but that's...
And therefore, we should be treated different morally. Now, from a typical Western religious view, we have souls as human beings, and animals do not. And as a soul, I mean not just in the religious sense, but I also mean that there is a part of you that is not just your 5 senses, right?
Okay, sure, well...
So for example, if you think you're only your 5 senses, which one of your 5 senses is telling you that?
Well, I don't know what you mean by 5 senses. You mean my brain?
It's crazy that we're giving a stage to these people who don't even know what the 5 senses in a human body are. His argument is as empty and blunt as his brain. Imagine comparing a human with an animal. Kirk proceeds to school him on the 5 senses, but the guy came prepared with a question so ridiculous that he ended up making a bigger fool of himself.
Well, your 5 senses: sight, smell, taste, feel, hear. 5 senses. So an animal only has 5 senses. It does not have an ability to withdraw itself from its 5th sense. Right?
Yeah, but how do you believe that it's okay to kill an animal when it's not okay to kill a child? You defend a child more. Some children die. Some children never make it out of the womb.
Well, because human beings are human. A is A, and human beings are worthy of protection, and animals are not humans, and they're not the moral equivalency. Correct?
What about milk? But animals are raped all the time. Cows are raped to produce milk. Yeah, to produce milk, a cow has to be impregnated, and it's not like these farmers are waiting for the animal to get pregnant naturally. They have to be forcibly inseminated, which is a form of rape.
I actually think it's a great thing that we have dairy.
Okay, but I don't think that that drinking milk in and of itself is bad. But saying that animals can be raped is okay. That's beyond me.
You think that cows are being raped? I got to be honest.
Yes.
I've been doing this for 12 years. I've never heard that before.
Yes, but they are raped because they're not referred to as being raped. They're said to be forcibly inseminated. How come that's okay, but raping a small child is not?
I would not.
Yeah.
But I just want to make sure we are consistent, just so we're consistent. Do you believe that we should limit the unjust suffering of insects?
Well, I don't believe that. I don't believe in intentionally killing insects either.
So you don't believe that we should spray for mosquitoes even if they're carrying diseases that
Well,
kill
if they're
humans?
threatening me, then it's self-defense.
Oh, okay.
Imagine being so passionate about something that you haven't even thought through the most basic arguments against your own position. I almost feel sorry for the guy, so trapped in the woke mindset that he ends up humiliating himself. Now watch out how this next girl who thinks she's slick and thought she could trap Candace Owens, but little did she know it would only make her look like a fool.
Hello. So my question is also about trans people, because it's specifically about trans people competing in sports, because I think everyone here can agree we need to protect women's sports. So recently in Texas, there was a boy who won the girls wrestling state championship. Do you think that he should have been allowed to compete in that division?
I think that a man taking down a woman on a map should warrant a call to the police.
Wonderful.
And should not, of course, be considered a sport.
Because he was actually born female and forced to compete in that division despite being on HRT.
I am so open to transgender people. Like, if they want to have their own division, go for it. I literally, in fact, I would love to watch it. I actually would love to watch it. If you are opting in as a man, as a woman, to having a man take you down on a mat, that is totally fine for me. But what is unacceptable is that we have these divisions. This is for women, this is for men, and you have people that are allowing men to compete in these women's divisions and to obviously dominate, because going back to biology, men, of course, are stronger than women. They are always going to be stronger and faster than women.
It's like how Leah Thomas went from getting second place in a race as a man to winning the race.
Yeah, it's completely unacceptable, and it's fraudulent, and the people...
Exactly. Going from second to first does not happen naturally.
See how she tries to be slick with that sarcasm? These people are so wrapped up in their own little bubble, rude, disrespectful, and allergic to facts that no amount of logic ever gets through.
Riley Gaines, who has spoken about how she competed against Leah Thomas and it was not fair. Leah Thomas suddenly switching your gender, competing against women is not fair. I am open to Leah Thomas.
You're going to say it's not fair.
Don't ask me a question and then cut me off when I give you the answer. It's just obnoxious. It really is. I am open to Leah Thomas and every other trans person having their own category at the Olympics and allowing them to compete. That is absolutely fine. Having their own category at high school universities, at high schools, at universities, everywhere across the country, and being able to compete. What I am not open to are biological men competing against women. If you want evidence that biological men will always defeat women, look no further than the actual Olympics and look at the time differences as it is when men are competing in a sprint versus women competing in a sprint, when men are competing in a throw versus when women are competing in a throw. If you don't want to acknowledge biological reality, I want you to lead the trans Olympics. I want you to be the person that establishes the trans events for people. Thank you for your question. There's more people behind you.
Okay, I love that your solution is separate but equal.
What? So we already have a, what? Your solution is separate but equal? What are you talking about? We already have men and women divisions, so is that separate but equal? Next question.
Lastly, we have a clip of a radical transsexual activist getting dismantled by Charlie Kirk.
Hello, my name's Eve, your local transsexual. I just wonder where you get this idea that like trans people are being indoctrinated.
Okay, so are you say you're transsexual or transgender? And tell me, is there a technical difference between the two?
Damn. Okay. Some people say that there's a difference. To me, there's no difference. So it's just either or.
Okay, so by a lot, what are your chromosomes? XX or XY?
Very strange question, but
Not
I
really.
think XY. I could be intersex. Who knows?
Okay, so you were born as a man and you are a man.
No. I was born as a man, and now I'm a woman.
Okay, no, but you don't become a woman just because you dress like a woman.
Oh, goodness. What about my hormones?
I don't become black. Do I become black if I wear blackface?
That is a wild comparison, but hormones by themselves you can actively change.
But
by taking HRT, you can also stop taking the T suppressor.
But people are more than
eventually.
hormones. I mean, you have men with low testosterone; those are called white dudes for Harris. You can have women with high testosterone. So testosterone, estrogen, and your endocrinology is more than what you are as either a man or a woman. There's brain size, there is how you process information, there is bone density, muscle mass. Every single one of your cells is either coded XX or XY. So let me ask you a question. If I wear a disguise or a costume, do I become that thing? For example, if I dress with a sombrero and start talking with a Mexican accent, do I then become that culture?
No, because that's different race.
Okay,
That's
but then wait,
very different.
why? How is it different? Because you're saying that if you dress a certain way and you present a certain way, you can be as you think you are. Why can't I also just choose what culture I am?
Because you're born within a culture, you're born with...
But you were born as a man. So what is a woman?
What is a woman is whatever you want to be.
So anyone can be a woman?
Yeah.
So do you get a period?
No. Well, actually, yes. So, no.
Wow. Can you give birth?
No. But a lot of trans people that are on hormones do get PMS symptoms.
Right, but symptoms and is different. I mean, like moodiness or mood swings are not the same thing.
Yeah,
but can you give birth?
Also, cis women don't always have to give birth. Cis women can also have PMS symptoms without getting a period.
Right. So, but you have to. So, a woman can be whatever you want it to be. Is that correct?
Yeah, but cis women can also be and have all of those
So,
things.
under that logic, can I become a bobcat or a giraffe?
I mean, if you want me to call you a bobcat, sure.
Here's the kicker. So, you are a biological male. No matter how much surgery or hormones you take, you'll never be able to give birth.
Yeah,
So,
I'm okay with that.
right. But so then, what point is womanhood achieved then? At what point do you become a woman?
I feel pretty. Yeah.
So
I can look at myself and not want to kill myself, so.
Well, hold on. So now we're getting to something. Maybe, is it possible that you might have other underlying mental health issues that you are then ascribing as transgenderism that you might not be treating?
No. I am being treated for other mental illnesses,
Right,
but it is unrelated.
Are they unrelated, or is transgenderism a symptom of other underlying issues that I hope you get treatment for, such as depression, schizophrenia, anxiety, bipolar tendencies?
Charlie was dropping savage comebacks with a straight face, which made it even funnier. But honestly, I kind of feel bad for the guy. He's clearly fallen deep into the woke rabbit hole, and at this rate, therapy might just become a lifelong subscription.